The Bears have their new head coach in Matt Eberflus. I mentioned him earlier. He's the guy who became the defensive coordinator of the Colts, waiting for Josh McDaniels to arrive as the head coach, and he never did. Frank Reich got the job instead. It worked out for Eberflus. His ship comes in 4 years later. Here he is from yesterday talking about the franchise quarterback, hopefully, for the Bears that he inherits right out of the gates, and that's second-year first-round pick Justin Fields.
Justin Fields, do you look at him as a franchise quarterback, a guy that can be great and lead and win because of?
Yeah, so right now we're looking at everybody through the same lens, meaning that we're going to go back and we're going to watch those guys with a fresh eye, and we're going to see where they are, okay, in terms of what they need to develop on. So I'm a big process guy, so I want to be able to help the player. So when you look at the player-coach relationship, it's got to be like this, okay? So one of the ways we help all players, from player A to player Z, we're going to develop a plan for those guys, Mark, okay, to get better. And it's usually only 3 or 4 things. You sit down with them, hey, show them the tape. This is what you're going to get better at. They work on it on their own, okay, in the off season. Then when they come back to here with us in April, then we start working on the detailed plan. But we don't just say, okay, hey, that's good. We have a detailed plan in terms of how to work towards that all the way through. And then when you improve that skill, you move to the next one. You move to the next one. So it's a plan in place, and I'm looking forward to doing it with all the players.
What was the question again? I don't know whether he did that on purpose or that's just a sign of things to come. The question was very simple. Now, it was a simple question, and I'm surprised the question was asked. Do you view Justin Fields as a franchise quarterback? Well, it almost feels like one of those situations where anything other than yes is no. And that's always one of the concerns, that you're going to hire somebody to pair with your young quarterback in whom multiple first-round picks were invested. And now this guy may not be completely on board. And the way he answered the question, and I think part of it was he was anxious to talk a little bit and show people how he can teach and what his process is. So he seized upon that question as an opportunity to have a little bit of a speech there, deliver a little monologue about what his process is and how he's going to work with all these guys and didn't want to single anyone out. That was kind of the attitude. But at the same time, Justin Fields is watching this closely, I assume. And when he hears that question, he'd kind of like to hear yes, wouldn't he? Don't you want to hear yes? Now, maybe he'll hear it privately, but during that press conference, I would like to hear, yeah, I mean, look, we got a huge investment in Justin Fields. He's our present. He's our future. My job is to get the absolute most out of him, and I'm going to hire an offensive coordinator who I can trust to groom and teach and let Justin Fields grow. Sometimes, and this is where the process is a lot simpler to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a little messed up in the head. But what you want to give at these introductory press conferences are sound bites around which the fan base can rally and that the national media can use to play, and people are going to watch it, and the reaction is going to be, I like that guy. I like what he had to say. I kind of like that. I want to hear some more from him. That Eberflus thing, that pretty simple question. The ball's on the tee. I mean, that's as soft of a softball as you're going to get from a reporter at your introductory press conference. And I don't disagree with anything that he said. You're gonna have the super fans going crazy down at Ditka's today, choking on ribs and wings, based on that answer. You want a little something. You want a little. I remember 4 years ago, the Bears and the Raiders, just like yesterday, had their introductory press conferences the same day. And Matt Nagy's was not impressive. John Gruden's was awesome. And you saw and heard in John Gruden's introductory press conference, in his return to the Raiders, a guy who had been in broadcasting for almost a decade. He knew what the messages needed to be to the fan base. He knew what the sound bites needed to be for us when we played them the next day. Matt Nagy was not impressive. Now, he was coach of the year in 2018 and went to the playoffs, and John Gruden never did in his second stint with the Raiders, but that doesn't matter. It's a different environment. It's a different goal. It's a PR-driven atmosphere for these press conferences, and I don't see a lot of PR advice either being given or being followed. Also, interesting choice by Eberflus to go button open on the suit. 2 approaches. Usually what you do, you unbutton when you sit down, you button when you stand up. That's the way that we always did it in court. Stand up, button your coat. Sit down, unbutton it. Now, on TV, do a lot of button of the coat when you're sitting down. That's usually what we do because it all flops around and stuff. But anyway, again, it's a very visual medium. And this is your moment. This is your time. This is your chance. And it's not just how you dress, how you conduct yourself. It's what you say and how you say it and what sound bites you give us. And, there was a clunky sound bite yesterday from Ryan Poles, the new GM, about we're going to reclaim the North, and he's getting clowned for that a little bit. You got to pick your words carefully. You got to deliver them in a way that is going to be engaging, and you ultimately want the look, everything that a team does at this stage of the offseason should be crafted with one thing in mind: creating maximum confidence from your customers. At the end of the day, you're selling a product. You want people to buy tickets to show up for your games, and then you want them to actually show up for your games. Because if they buy the tickets and they don't go, then they don't spend all the money on all the other crap that they spend it on when they go to the games. You know the feeling when you go to a sporting event or a concert. You don't think about your monthly budget. You kind of have your separate money that you're gonna waste on overpriced hot dogs and overpriced beer and overpriced popcorn, and you got to buy a program, and you got to take Jimmy to the place with the jersey or the pennant or the foam finger or whatever. You just kind of accept the fact that you're going to go there and you're going to spend a lot of money. They want people to show up and spend that money. You got to be fully engaged. You got to be motivated. And I don't know. I really don't think it's all that difficult, although based upon the quality of some of these press conferences we see, maybe it is. Matt Eberflus, by the way, will not be calling the defensive plays for the Chicago Bears, which is a good sign because, look, what did Bill Belichick do best? When he became a head coach, he morphed into a guy who wasn't just dance with the one that brung me. I'm going to run the defense. Because here's what happens. Being a great defensive coordinator got me this far, and I'm going to keep doing it. That's what I know. I think for a lot of coaches, as they realize how different the job is of head coach in so many ways, they cling to the thing that got them there. That's their blanket. That's their binky. That's their thing that makes them feel like they know what they're doing. I'm going to keep doing the thing that got me this job. I'm not going to relinquish the thing that got me this job because this job's a lot different than the one I used to have. So the more familiar I can make this job to my last job, I'm going to do that. I know nobody knows it better than me. I know. No, the smart move, especially for a defensive guy, you become a coach of the whole team. You become the one who develops the relationship with Justin Fields. So if the team is successful and the offensive coordinator gets a head coaching job of his own, you're the one who's still there. You're the Bill Belichick with Tom Brady. You hear sometimes Josh McDaniels and Brady, but it's always Belichick and Brady, even though Belichick was not an offensive coach. That's the key to long-term success. So maybe if you're a Bears fan and you're looking for something about which to feel positive, the idea that Matt Eberflus is not going to call the defensive plays could be a sign that, number one, he's confident in his ability to make the adjustment from coordinator to coach, comfortable in his own skin, and willing and able to become a coach of the whole team, not just a glorified defensive coordinator like Mike Zimmer was in Minnesota. One of the reasons that Zimmer ultimately failed, and I wouldn't call his full tenure a failure, but at the end of the day when you're fired, it's getting a report card with an F on it, constantly changing offensive coordinators. And he basically threw the keys to the offense to his coordinator, and he focused on his defense. You can't do that and expect to be a long-term, successful, Super Bowl contending coach. You got to become coach of the whole team.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights From NBC Sports.